It's now official. The Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners will be leaving the Big 12 for the SEC effective July 1st, 2025, or maybe even sooner. What does this mean for the two programs, the two conferences, and for college sports as a whole, particularly basketball and football? Well, stay tuned, because it's all coming up on the Ford File. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ford File. If it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated, and it'll raise your IQ by at least 10 points. In today's case file, so we're Texas and Oklahoma, founding members of the Big 12 Conference, leaving for the SEC in 2025, but maybe even sooner. The Big 12 collapses on itself because of this. We'll get to the Big 12, but first, the impact on the two programs. You might be asking, why are they leaving? Well, it's pretty simple, really. More money and better competition. So Texas got tired of losing to Iowa State and TCU, so they're going to go lose to Vandy and Arkansas instead. And Oklahoma got tired of being blown out by an SEC team in the playoffs, so they'll get that out of the way a few weeks earlier. No, but really, this is great for both teams because it's just going to make them better on the field, and then obviously they're going to make more money too. The only con I can really think of is that it might be harder to get into the playoff. I mean, because especially with possible expansion, because in the Big 12 they already had a pretty good chance of getting in if you won they won the Big 12, but now in the SEC, they might not make it in. I mean, if they were still in the Big 12, then they'll definitely get in, because if it expands to 8 teams or 12 teams, they'll definitely get in. The Big 12 champion will definitely get in. But even with the expansion in the SEC, and have to compete with the likes of Alabama and Georgia, it's going to be a pretty tough road. So that's the only con I can think of, but otherwise, it's a win-win-win-win-win situation for both Oklahoma and Texas. And they're just going to get better on the field and then off the field in terms of revenue. Just like Mizzou and Texas A&M did. And Mizzou and Texas A&M had early success in the SEC, with Texas A&M being competitive with Johnny Manziel, and then Mizzou winning the SEC East twice in the first 3 years in the SEC. So Texas and Oklahoma, they'll be just fine in the SEC. As for the impact on the Southeastern Conference itself, it will expand to 16 teams now. And the basketball and football just got even better. They were already the best conference in football, no doubt. And then you could definitely make the argument for the best conference in basketball. But now they just got even better. And obviously, the revenue for the conference is going to be even higher now with the additions of Texas and Oklahoma. And think about this. All these powerhouses and blue bloods in the same conference. Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, LSU, adding Texas and Oklahoma. And then Tennessee's technically a blue blood. And then adding Kentucky for basketball. That's a lot of powerhouse schools and or blue bloods in the same conference. So the SEC and then Texas and Oklahoma are obviously the big winners in this situation. But we're talk about the Big 12, which is undoubtedly the loser of this ordeal. So the conference is in big trouble right now. They're about to lose 2 of its founding members, and now there's talks of KU wanting to leave to go to the Big 10, and then Iowa State will probably join them if that does happen. So the Big 12 is on the verge of collapsing with just 8 teams. I mean, they could go back to being the Big 8. But really, it's either they have to get new teams to join ASAP, or they're going to cease to exist. Well, and either to make up for the revenue that Texas and Oklahoma generate. Texas isn't only number one in terms of football revenue in the Big 12. They're number one in the country. And then Oklahoma is second in the Big 12 and eighth in the country. So even to get close to replicating that revenue, they're going to have to get at least back to 12 teams. And teams I think they could go after are like Boise State, BYU, Memphis, Houston, Cincinnati, SMU, maybe something like Tulsa. Yeah. And all those teams are pretty good, and they'd add to the Big 12, but still, the conference will, even if it survives this, it will never be the same again, and it probably won't be as prominent of a conference. As for the impact on college sports itself, a 16-team SEC will be very chaotic, but also very fun. And the Big 12, possibly not existing within a few years, is something I wouldn't like personally, especially since of the history behind the conference. Before it was the Big 12, it was the Big 8. And to lose such historic conference would be pretty bad in my opinion. So then I hope they can get new members and survive. And I think a new look Big 12 will be very weird. It'll definitely be very weird, but also be very cool, I think. And this might inspire other conferences who aren't the 14 teams yet to get up to that, or maybe even advance to 16 if they're already at 14. And for example, the ACC might be going super aggressively after Notre Dame to join the conference full-time for football, even though Notre Dame is probably not going to go for that. As long as Notre Dame can make the playoff as an independent, they're going to stay independent, especially with the possible expansion. Yeah, they'll definitely be able to make it in. So, and plus Notre Dame makes a whole lot more money as an independent, especially because they're a national brand. But anyway, this has been a crazy past few months for college sports. First, the talk of the college football playoff expanding. Then players are now able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. And now, conference realignment. College sports is definitely getting even more exciting than it already was. That about wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Remember, it'll raise your IQ by 10 points. And to hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. And also leave a like and a comment and then share this video with a college sports fan. As for this video, we can call this case closed.